Good evening. My name is Vincent Adams. I'm actually Rabbi Vincent Adams, and this is our first inaugural meeting of the Transfer of Wealth Club. Those of you who followed us last year when we had the Real Estate Investment Club, we've taken a new direction. We sort of metamorphosized ourselves into the Transfer of Wealth Club. The way the economy continues to change and be unpredictable, we thought that we should take a new direction this year in our club. And so we changed the name from the Commercial Real Estate Investment Club to the Transfer of Wealth Club. And we're doing this as an outreach of Etz Hayim, our church. And what exactly, you might ask, okay, what does that mean? We are still interested in real estate investing and development. But more so than that, the emphasis is going to be on helping you to become debt-free, using your real estate and using other financial models and vehicles that we've been researching over the past year. The last time we met, it was probably the first quarter of 2012 sometime, or even the last quarter of 2011 when we had our last meeting. So I'm really happy to be back on the air. 2012 was very tumultuous. There were a lot of changes. We adapted to those changes, and we're back stronger than ever now. I feel very confident about the course that we're taking now, and that it's going to be able to help you and probably be able to help more people than just the real estate investor and those who were looking to learn how to invest. We still have those meetings in our archive that you can visit. We will still talk about real estate investing to some degree, but we're going to get a little bit more into asset protection this year. How do you keep what you have and then build on it and then protect it once you get it? That's really going to be our thrust here. You know, keeping what you have and then building on that foundation, how to protect it. One of the things that I've done differently this year, I used last year to develop myself. I had always been looking into this area, and when I say this area, I'm talking about foreclosures. At first, I looked at it as an investor, about maybe buying foreclosures and investing in them. It's a good financial vehicle, you know, a lot of profit in it. But at the same time, I have a heart for people who are going through foreclosure. And my heart for the people who are going through foreclosure is much bigger than my real estate investment brain, so to speak. So one of the things that I did last year, in the past couple of years, I became certified to do mortgage securitization audits. And some of you may know what that is, and some of you may not. But it is an excellent tool of foreclosure defense. It really shifts the power of balance from the banks to the homeowners or the property owners. It works on residential property as well as commercial property. And right now, it's almost like a silver bullet to the banks. It stops them cold in their tracks. Mortgage securitization audits. And so I became a certified mortgage securitization auditor. And what we are engaged in now as an outreach of our ministry, we're going around to people who are in foreclosure. We're offering our services to them at a heavily discounted price for the audit. So if you get online, an audit can be on average from around $1,000 or $1,500 or $1,200 to $1,500. The highest I've seen has been $3,500 for an audit. And we offer it at a significantly We offer the same quality, the same level of expertise, the same and really more in-depth analysis than some of the basic audit programs offer. And we offer it for $500, probably the lowest price that you'll find out there for this type of service. And what a securitization audit. I know some of you may remember that I'm a licensed commercial real estate appraiser. And I also did residential appraisals as well. A lot of you homeowners, when you bought your home or when you refinanced, you had to get an appraisal. And an appraiser came out to your home, did a physical inspection on your home, and then wrote a report and gave that to the bank or the mortgage company and told the bank essentially how much they thought your home was worth. And then the bank took that appraisal and maybe they decided to give you 80%, loan you 80% of the value that the appraiser came up with, or maybe only 70% of the value, or maybe only 60, whatever. And what that appraiser did was analyze your market. He looked at the market for your home. He looked at comparable sales in your neighborhood to see what similar homes in your neighborhood sold for in the past 6 months or less. And then he made elements of comparison and did adjustments and came up with a value for your home. Now, a mortgage securitization audit, what that does is analyze your mortgage, or more precisely, the trail, the mortgage trail. When you went in to the closing, when you bought your home, or when you refinanced, you had to go to a closing. And at that closing, you signed away your life, so to speak. You had a bunch of documents there that you signed, and little did you, some of you knew, but many of you didn't know that before the ink on that paper was dry, as they say, your mortgage had already been sold to someone else. Matter of fact, it was sold before you even signed up. You know, that mortgage company, that bank had a quota for that month or for that quarter, and there was an investor on Wall Street ready to buy that mortgage. When your mortgage was sold on Wall Street, it became securitized. Thus, we have a mortgage securitization auditor. And what I do, or what a mortgage securitization auditor does, is track that process to make sure everything was done according to federal rules and regulations. You know, this is, you know, when that mortgage was sold to Wall Street and it was securitized, it comes under the critical eye of the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. And they have a lot of rules and regulations about buying stocks and bonds and how to sell something on Wall Street, you know, at the stock exchange or whatever. And they want those rules and regulations followed to the letter. And if they're not, sometimes people can go to jail. I know you've seen the news lately, or in the last you know, few years, about different people. They put Martha Stewart in jail, the SEC. Martha Stewart, they sent her to jail for violating SEC rules on insider trading. So the SEC is serious business. You know, they take their rules and regulations seriously. Their rules and regulations is the law of the land, the federal law of the land. And they don't give a wink and a nod to anything, nothing. So you have people like me, mortgage securitization auditors, who track the process and make sure that all of the SEC rules and regulations were followed. Now that you know what a mortgage securitization audit is and what a mortgage securitization auditor such as myself does, let's talk about the securitization process. When you went into that closing, signed your name, that loan was bundled up in a bundle and sold to Wall Street. That process of selling your mortgage to Wall Street is called securitization. That whole process is called securitization, by which it's not a mortgage anymore. It becomes a security, that's traded on Wall Street, just like stocks and bonds. Just like you could buy stock in GM, or you can buy stock in Microsoft, or buy stock in Apple. Basically, Wall Street bought stock in you, that you would pay your mortgage on time, and that they would receive a hefty profit from you doing so. Now, the bank or the mortgage company, when they sold your mortgage, they were paid in full. So when you went into closing and signed those documents, the bank got paid in full that day. They were paid by Wall Street. They were paid, they were bought off, they were paid. They received their money, their profit, and everything right there at the closing table. Did you hear me? Okay. So that being the case, why are banks and mortgage companies trying to foreclose on homeowners and investors? Interesting question. Okay. It's actually illegal for them to do that. They were paid in full. Hear me. They were paid in full at the closing table by Wall Street. Then that mortgage was securitized. That's the process from going from a mortgage to securities that could be sold on Wall Street. Again, it's called securitization. There's a very strict process that the banks needed to adhere to in order to do that. And I'm here to tell you that pretty much since 2000 to about 2010, the banks violated just about every single rule that could be violated in that securitization process. If you go to 60 Minutes in 2011 did a story about it, about robo signing, about hiring a room full of 100 or 200 people who just forged their name on documents. Go to my website at thedominionteam.com. TheDominion.com. No, excuse me. THED as in dominate, OMINION team, TEAM.com. TheDominionTeam.com. And look under the tab of mortgage eradication, and you'll see you can watch the entire broadcast of that 60-minute story about how the banks were in such a rush to make billions and trillions of dollars that they completely violated all of the rules and regulations of the SEC and the law, and most of the state laws of every state in the union, in their rush to make billions and trillions of dollars. Almost every single mortgage that was written from 2000 to about 2010, somewhere between 2008, somewhere between 2008 to 2010. After 2008, they started slowly trying to get their act together, but they really didn't until about 2010. Okay? They just broke every rule on the books. And so what I do as a mortgage securitization auditor, I go and I follow that trail. from the moment you sign your name all the way. I track that mortgage through the securitization process all the way to Wall Street. And if certain rules and laws were not followed to the letter, that mortgage is illegal and is literally null and void because of those illegalities. One of the first things that we point out to the courts when we do it, we do these securitization audits for quite a few attorneys who are engaged in foreclosure defense for their clients, for the homeowner, for the investor. They use these audits to show that the bank is perpetrating fraud against the court. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But I track that process. And one of the first thing we do is that we show that the bank was paid in full. Matter of fact, they got paid in full, and they struck a little side deal with Wall Street. They say, hey, we have this mortgage. We'll sell it to you for a price. And I tell you what, we'll collect your money and send it to you for a fee. So they got paid in full, and then they turned around and they became the servicer of your mortgage. They're not the owner of your mortgage anymore. They're the servicer. And they collect your mortgage payment from you every month. They deduct their fee, and then they pass the rest on to Wall Street. So we show that. We prove that the bank, who is now trying to foreclose on you, does not own that mortgage. They have no legal right to foreclose on you. Only the person that owns that mortgage and that note can foreclose on you. The bank cannot do it as their representatives. The owner of the mortgage and the note has to appear in court and present their case. Not the bank, not the servicer, not their attorneys. The owner of that note and that mortgage has to do it, or else they have no legal standing. For instance, for example, if I was walking with you and we went into Walmart and they had just mopped the floor, or maybe someone dropped a bottle of juice and it broke and they hadn't cleaned it all up yet, and it was wet there, and there were no signs around saying caution, wet floor, or anything like that, and you slipped and fell and hurt yourself, broke your hip or whatever, got hurt. I could be very upset about it as your friend, seeing you in pain and agony like that. I could be upset that Walmart would allow that to happen. But I cannot call up Walmart or notify Walmart and say, I was with my friend and we came into your store. It was a wet spot that should have been, cleared up, dried up, or at least marked, and it wasn't done. And my friend slipped and fell and hurt themselves, and I'm upset. I'm suing you, Walmart, for allowing my friend, to slip and fall, to be so negligent as to cause this accident. I can't do that because I lack something that the law calls standing, legal standing to bring the action. I don't have legal standing to bring the action against Walmart. Only you do. The person who fell, the injured party, can bring a lawsuit against Walmart. Any lawsuit that you want to bring against anyone, you must be the injured party. You must have the legal standing. Either you're the injured party. If it's a physical accident, you're the injured party, or you are the owner, and you need to be made whole. Maybe somebody damaged your property, and you want to be made whole. You want to be compensated for the loss of your property or your goods. You're the injured party. You have the legal standing. And in the case of a mortgage, whoever owns that mortgage is the only one who has the legal standing and can bring a lawsuit against you. The foreclosure is a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit. So the person bringing that lawsuit against you must have the legal standing to do so. The banks do not, because they're not the injured party. They've been paid in full. They're just a servicer. They're not under the law. They can't do it as the owner's representative. Only the owner can do that. So they don't have the legal standing to foreclose against you, to bring this lawsuit against you. Now, the first thing you say, how in the world can this be happening? To the tune where we have record numbers of foreclosure, people are losing their homes left and right, or they're struggling and battling foreclosure, or they're scared to death, they're on the brink, they're, robbing Peter to pay Paul to pay this mortgage. How can this be happening? How can the courts allow this to happen? To some degree, the judges, the courts, and the attorneys are ignorant of the new process. See, it used to be when you went and got a mortgage from your bank, from your credit union, okay, from your savings and loan or what have you, when you got a mortgage from a mortgage company or bank or whatever, that bank owned that mortgage and they kept it. They bought it, they gave you the mortgage, they gave you the money, and they kept that mortgage in-house. They owned it. If you didn't pay the bank back, they indeed were the injured party. They had the legal standing to foreclose on you. But ever since around 2000, banks changed. They saw a new way to make money, to make more money than they've ever made. It was called derivatives or securitization of the mortgages. And that's what they started doing. No longer did the bank keep that mortgage in-house and you paid them over 10, 15, 20, or 30 years. No longer do they do that anymore. When you take out a mortgage, they immediately bundle it up with several other mortgages and sell it to Wall Street. It becomes securitized. They don't own it anymore. They sell it off to Wall Street. So the judges, the court system, the opposing attorneys, they're thinking with that old mindset about how banking used to be. And no one has bothered to educate them as to what actually is going on now. Some of these judges, they're kind of, they're in the bank's back pocket anyway. Believe me, some of them. Okay, there's some who are not. But some of these judges are just a rubber stamp for the bank. And they don't want to be educated. They don't want you to get educated. They want to, here it is, you have a bank, they got paid in full when you signed your name at closing. Now they want to foreclose on you. That's double dipping. They've already been paid. Now they want to come and foreclose on you. They're double dipping. But unless you fight it, unless you go to court, unless you have the proof of what's going on, you're going to lose. You have to know what happened. You have to present your case to the court, educate the judge, educate the opposing attorney, so that you can prevail. Or else you're going to wind up in the streets. You're going to lose your home. I've got clients who lost, some of whom were investors, who lost 70, 100, or 200 homes after 2008. and are in danger of losing their own private home now due to this illegal process. Now, if you still don't quite understand what I'm talking about, let me present it to you this way. Let's say you brought stock in GM. And remember GM last year, this is 2013, we're here January 8th, 2013. Last year in 2012, and I believe maybe part of 2011, GM filed for bankruptcy. They were in some pretty serious trouble. They had to get a bailout from the government. Remember that GM stock went down to, gosh, I mean, it dropped from, man, I think that the price dropped to a price that it was at maybe 20, 30, or 40 years ago or something almost back to, the 60s or 50s. I forget the exact time, but the price of that stock just fell through the floor. Now, and I think some people just, lost their money. Now, you bought that stock. It's a security. Okay, you bought stock in GM. It's securitized. It's a security regulated by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, just because you lost all of your money in the market with GM stock, can you go down and go to Detroit and pick out a couple of SUVs or an SUV to make up the difference for what you lost? Absolutely not. You're just out of luck. You took a chance, you rolled the dice, you purchased stock in GM, you thought it was going to go up in price and be a stable investment, for your retirement fund, but it went into the toilet. You lost everything. And you just lost it. You have no recourse whatsoever. You rolled the dice, you took a chance, and you lost. When the bank sold your mortgage to Wall Street, it became the same as GM stock. And it was sold like GM stock. Meaning, if you default and it goes bust, the investor just loses. They just lose. Just like if they bought GM stock. As a matter of fact, soon as they sold that mortgage and it became securitized, that mortgage became, now follow me, as soon as you signed your name and they sold that mortgage to Wall Street, that mortgage became securitized. And the mortgage itself became unsecured. In other words, normally your home is the security for the mortgage. But now that that mortgage has been sold on Wall Street, that mortgage is now unsecured, meaning that they cannot come after your house. There is no security for that mortgage. It automatically by law becomes unsecured. Supreme Court has said so. So how is it then that these banks are foreclosing on people?
People don't know.
People don't know. It has, this is the greatest scam, I think, of, the 20th and the 21st century. This is a better scheme than the Pilgrims pulled on the Native Americans. It is just as large in scale. The banks are doing a number on America right now. You talk about greed, you talk about corruption, just downright thievery is what the banks are doing. All because people do not know that they have these rights and what's really going on. Now, some of you may say, well, what about the investor? Okay, what about the poor investor? When Goldman Sachs was the main bank that um, came up with this idea of derivatives or securitizing the mortgages. And they knew what this whole thing with our economy right now basically was engineered by the large banks, especially Goldman Sachs. And what they did, and you saw it on the news if you remember, they got criticized for this. Goldman Sachs sold these bundled up mortgages that were securitized to the average investor like you and me, and even to the large investor like pension funds, like the teachers' pension fund for Little Rock, Arkansas, and places around the country like that, bought these securities. Goldman Sachs pushed them very heavily. At the same time that they were selling these, to the average American, to the pension funds, at the same time, they bet that these mortgages were going to fail. So they took out an insurance plan. Matter of fact, they knew they were going to fail. They were engineered to fail. They encouraged the predatory lending, where anybody with a pulse, a heartbeat, and can fog a mirror would get a mortgage. And then they took those mortgages and they bundled them up with some very, good mortgage, people with high credit ratings. But they put enough of these bad mortgages with the good mortgages so that it would corrupt the whole system. Let me tell you how they did it. They took out an insurance policy called a credit default swap. It's a type of insurance policy. And they took out this insurance policy. They went to AIG. Remember AIG? Remember that big bailout that AIG got? They took these insurance, they went to AIG. They said, hey, we have these mortgages, but we want to protect ourselves. Give us an insurance policy against these mortgages defaulting. Now, mind you, they're making trillions of dollars securitizing these mortgages. And then they're making commissions, selling them, to investors on Wall Street and around the world for that fact. Now, these credit default swaps are like an insurance policy. When they would get these mortgages, let's say, they would put them in what's called tranches, which are different levels. Let's say they put 100 of these bundled mortgages in a tranche level, in a tranche. What they do, when they put it in that tranche, let's say for the sake of argument, it's 100. They say, we have these mortgages, we bundled them up, they're in these different tranches. They manipulated the ratings on those tranches to be very high grade, even though they had people in there who had 500 credit scores or less. They mixed enough 500 credit scores and less in with people who maybe had 700 and 800 credit scores. And they knew that they had enough statistically, they knew that these things would fail. Thank you. They knew that these things would fail. Now, AIG, sees dollar signs, rolling around their eyeballs. They're looking at these trillions of dollars that Goldman Sachs is making. They say, hey, this is our way to get in on this. We can give them a policy or a credit default swap. We'll collect all this money in premiums, and we'll make money. Remember, insurance companies are not trying to cover you for your loss. They're trying to collect premiums from you, and and never pay a policy if they can help it. They do everything they can, uh, you know, to not have to pay a policy. So they look at this as a great thing. And but unbeknownst to AIG, Goldman Sachs had stacked the deck. AIG says, okay, we'll give you a policy. We'll give you a credit default swap on each tranche level for those 100 mortgages that have been bundled up and are in this tranche level. Okay, we'll give you the policy, but we will not pay up on a policy until that tranche level has an 8% default rate. Now, what's significant about an 8% default rate? Historically, since the Great Depression, America's default rate on mortgages has never been greater than 2%. Historically, Americans, we want to own homes. We want to own property. We pay our mortgages. When we have jobs, we pay our mortgages. When we have fair interest rates and we don't have predatory lending, when the deck hasn't been stacked against us, we pay our mortgages. The default rate on mortgages since the Great Depression up until 2008 has never exceeded 2%. So AIG says, hey, we'll give them, but we won't pay up until it reaches 8% default rate on the tranche level. They figured they would never have to pay up. Historically, everything was in their favor. We will never have to pay up on these policies, is what they're thinking. Boy, whoa, the money is going to start rolling in. AIG was, oh boy. But little did they know that Goldman Sachs had stacked the deck. Okay, now here's what happened. The rest is history. You have 100 mortgages in a tranche. 8 of them default. That's an 8% default rate. You have 92 who are still paying, who didn't even default. Only 8 out of that tranche level defaulted. You have an 8% default rate. The way that the credit default swap works is AIG now has to pay up on the full face value of not only the 8 people who defaulted, those 8 mortgages who defaulted, but they have to pay Goldman Sachs 100% of the full face value of all 100 of those mortgages, even though they didn't default. You go, woo, wow. Okay, so question? What's the day's news about AIG?
They're suing the government. They paid back their bailout and they want to sue the government.
They paid back the bailout today. January 8th, 2013, AIG has paid back the bailout money and they want to sue the government.
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you why. I didn't even hear that story till you just told me. I'm going to tell you why they're suing the government. I was going to tell you what happened. Okay. I'm glad you told me that. I want to look at that story tonight when we get home or tomorrow or something. Like I said, 8 of those mortgages out of that 100 defaulted. AIG has to pay the full face value on that, not only on the 8, but on the other 92 that didn't even default. Full face value. That's how they wrote the policy. But they thought that the default rate would never exceed 2%, let alone get up to 8%. Okay? They have to pay off on all 100 full face value. Now you say, wow, what a way to take it up to you know what. It gets worse. In many cases, Goldman Sachs took out up to 5 different policies on the same tranche. So when that tranche failed, not only do they have to pay the full face value of those 8 that actually defaulted, and then the full face value of the 92 that didn't even default, but now they have to pay up to 5 times. They have to do that up to 5 times sometimes. That's why AIG went bankrupt and had to have a government bailout. They couldn't afford, all of a sudden, in 2008, they had to pay out all the, it's almost like Katrina. It's the same thing as Hurricane Katrina hitting the entire country. Okay? It's like Hurricane Katrina hit the entire country in one day. And now the insurance company not only has to pay claims, in New Orleans in southern Louisiana, but imagine if they have to pay claims in all 50 states at once. They didn't have the money to do that. That's what happened to AIG. That's why AIG went bankrupt, and that's why they had to have a government bailout. Now, some of you say, oh, they should have just let AIG go down. We're bailing out these companies, blah, 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 and a lot of. It's nowhere in the world that the government could have allowed AIG to go bankrupt. The world would stop spinning if AIG went bankrupt. Planes couldn't fly because they wouldn't have insurance. Trains couldn't roll because of no insurance. Trucks couldn't roll because of no insurance. The worldwide economy AIG was the largest insurance company in the world. The world economy would have grinded to a complete halt. You talk about a depression, 100 times deeper than 1929. Nowhere in the world that the government can allow AIG to go under. It can't happen. They couldn't let it happen. We'd be pushing, carts right now. If it had, we would have went back to the Stone Age. Plants couldn't operate. A plant couldn't operate. Nobody could produce any goods, let alone transport it anywhere. Plants would have to shut down. Manufacturing would have to shut down. Couldn't happen. Talking about too big to fail, AIG was really too big to fail. They really were. Now, the government stepped in, saved the world, because everybody in the world would have been out of a job. Okay? The government stepped in and saved the world. Okay, sounds like a good thing, right? Okay. But the foxes were already in the chicken coop. Okay? You let a rat guard the cheese. And those rats were Bernanke and Paulson. Remember, Bernanke and Paulson used to work for Goldman Sachs. When they were at Goldman, boy, here's the beauty of this. This is the best, gosh, I don't even know what to compare this to. This is the best scam. This is the perfect crime. This is the scam of, goodness, I mean,
Millennium.
no, not the, it goes way beyond the millennium. Nobody ever stole this much. You know, I mean, I don't know what to compare it to. There's no comparison. Okay, let me just get to it. Bernanke and Paulson used to work for Goldman Sachs. When they worked for Goldman Sachs, they cooked up this scheme of securitization and derivatives. They were the masterminds behind securitization and derivatives when they worked at Goldman Sachs. Okay, they cooked that scheme up. They make billions and billions of dollars for cooking that scheme up. You know, I guess when their pockets got so fat that they couldn't take any more money in, they probably ran out of offshore accounts to put the money in. They resigned Goldman Sachs and decided to come and work for the federal government and control the Federal Reserve. Now think about it. You're making more money than God, but you decide to give it up and come work for government money. Why would you do that? Why would you stop making, why would you leave the goose that's laying the golden egg? You just want to give back to the country, right? You just want to be in public service and give back to the country, right? No. You leave the private sector and go into the government sector so that you can CYA, so that you can cover your own behind, so that later on, when the poo-poo hits the fan, none of it gets on you. You can cover up your tracks. Now, here's what they did. When AIG went belly up and they needed that government bailout, Bernanke, Paulson, and what was that other little guy's name? I can't remember the third stooge on this. Bernanke, Paulson, and somebody else. I can't remember his name. They went to Goldman Sachs. Geithner. All of them, used to work for Goldman Sachs. Now they control the monetary system for the world, more or less, to some degree, definitely for the country. Federal Reserve and all that good stuff. Before I get to that point, I just want to point out something. With those credit default swaps, that insurance policy, they took out up to five different policies on the same tranche level. If you and I did that, let's say we bought a car and we insured it with 3 different insurance companies for the full value. If we got into an accident, we cannot collect, even though we paid the premium, we cannot collect from all 3 companies the full face value. That's called insurance fraud. You will go to jail quicker than Jesse James. Okay? That's insurance fraud. But since the securities market is so unregulated, they could take up to 5 different policies on the same tranche and get paid 5 different times on it. All at once. And none of it was illegal. But you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that on car insurance. You go to jail if you tried to do that on car insurance. You would have to notify all 3 companies that you had an accident, and then all 3 companies would get together and they would split. Each one would pay 1/3 of the expense. And that's what you would have to do. But not Goldman Sachs. Okay. Now AIG is bankrupt because all of a sudden, it's like Katrina hit the whole country. You had that scale of a disaster, not on a local or regional level, but on a nationwide level, really on a worldwide level, almost. So now they need bailout money. Bernanke, Paulson, Geithner, who cooked up this scheme when they were at Goldman Sachs, now they go to AIG and they go, all right, we'll bail you out, but you have to give up your right to subrogation. Any of you who have an insurance policy, maybe if you've noticed that there was a subrogation clause there. What that means is if someone hits your car and that person was at fault, the insurance company would pay you and get you a new car or get your car repaired. But if the other driver was at fault, they want to sue that other driver and get their money back. Remember, insurance companies don't want to pay a premium. That's called subrogation. You give up your right to the insurance company so that the insurance company can sue the other driver. Remember, I gave you a little discourse tonight about legal standing. You sign over your legal standing to the insurance company so that when you get in an accident, if you're not the one at fault, they can sue the other driver or sue his or her insurance company and get the money back that they paid you for your new car or for your repairs, for your rent-a-car while you got your car repaired or got waited on delivery of your new car or whatever. They told AIG that you have to give up the right to subrogation. You cannot negotiate with Goldman Sachs and other banks to pay only a certain amount of money. You have to pay the full face value of every premium, of every policy or credit default swap policy that you wrote. You can't negotiate this at all. If you want our bailout money, you pay up. And you cannot sue Goldman Sachs for fraud. You can't go back and say, what in the world happened to us? Somebody, did something crooked somewhere. You cannot go and sue Goldman Sachs for fraud, for any of the illegal stuff that they did. You can't do it if you want this bailout money. And you cannot negotiate with them. Just pay up. We'll give you the money, you just pay up. What is AIG going to do? They have no choice. Who told them that they had to pay up? Bernanke, Paulson, Geithner. The guys who cooked up the scheme in the first place. You can't investigate. So they cooked up the greatest robbery of history. That's the only thing you can say of history. I would probably say the only robbery was greater happened in the garden. They almost beat the devil. They stole almost as much as Satan stole from us in the garden. The greatest robbery in history. And then what's so beautiful, they cook it up while they're in the private sector, execute it, leave the private sector, come into the government sector, and stop all prosecution against them. That's why AIG wants to sue the government now. Because of what Paulson, Bernanke and Geithner did to them. If you don't quite get this, what I'm saying, watch the movie Inside Job. You can look at it for free on YouTube. Do we have that link?
I'll find it.
You can watch it on YouTube. Inside job. They explain credit default swaps. They explain what happened to AIG. They explain what Paulson and Bernanke and Geithner did, and a few other things. Watch that documentary. Did Matt Damon do the narration?
Yeah,
It's narrated by Matt Damon. Watch that movie, please. If you want to understand what I do as a mortgage securitization auditor, if you want to understand what happened, watch that movie.
about the biggest bank heist ever.
The biggest bank heist ever. It was more than a bank heist, okay? And no one has gone to jail yet. No one has gone to jail yet. Okay? Now, what I do as a mortgage securitization auditor is I track that process. I show that the bank was paid in full when you signed your name at closing. I show where that mortgage was securitized, where it went to on Wall Street, who bought it, what trust is it in. I even, in many cases, show that the credit default swap was paid off to the investors. There's really no injured party. Everybody has been paid, from the bank to the Wall Street investors, okay, to even sometimes the individual people who bought the stock through the credit default swaps. So why is the bank trying to foreclose on your property? Everybody's been paid. The bank has been paid. They took a service fee. They made money on a monthly basis when you paid your mortgage. They took out credit default swaps and got paid 5 times. They even got paid for the mortgages who didn't even default. Do you hear me? They even got paid on the mortgages that didn't even default. Why are the banks trying to foreclose on your home? If that isn't the biggest case of greed, ever, I don't know what is. If that's not double dipping, I don't know what is. When I do a mortgage securitization audit on your mortgage for your home or your commercial piece of property, and we find all of these violations, I haven't even told you the other violations: the robo-signing, the broken chain of assignment. All of those are enough to make that mortgage null and void. There's all kind of other violations in there other than what I mentioned. I just gave you some of the big ones. But broken chains of assignment, what is it? The robo signing. There are others in there too that we point, but those are the biggest. And all of that makes it null and void. And the fact that there's something, when the mortgage is securitized, there's what's called a pooling and servicing agreement. Pooling, pooling, because they put them in pools. In that pooling and servicing agreement, they state that there is no recourse, that whoever buys this has no legal recourse against anyone if this thing defaults. Just like when you buy stock in GM, if it goes down, you just lose. So not only does the bank not have legal standing, but even the people, the investors who bought it and who actually own it, they don't even have legal standing. The pooling and service agreement says that they have no recourse if there's a default of any kind. When they bought it, they agreed not to, hey, if it does, they agreed basically when they bought it, if it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, that's just it. We took the chance, we rolled the dice, we lost, and that's it. It's right there in the pooling and servicing agreement. So not even the investors on Wall Street really have any legal standing to come against you. How is it that the banks are able, using our court system, to take your property? It's amazing. I know if little old me can figure this out, I know Obama can figure it out. So complicity in this thing goes to the highest level. The highest level. But you have to find it. You have to get that information. You have to have a mortgage securitization audit performed so that you get this information so that you can defend yourself. You don't have to be in foreclosure to do this. You don't have to be in foreclosure to get your home free and clear. Anyone can do this. If you're up to date on your mortgage, that's even better. The process goes even faster and smoother when you're not in foreclosure. But if you're in foreclosure, hey, you definitely need to order a mortgage securitization audit and begin the process of fighting to keep your home. Don't let there are things on the internet, mortgage securitization audits are a scam. I wonder if that's being put out there by the banks. I know there's even some attorney who's putting out stuff saying that it's a scam. If it's a scam, why do attorneys call me up and ask me to do mortgage securitization audits if it's a scam? Okay. Why does if mortgage securitization audits are a scam, why does the California bar offer continuing education credits to their attorneys for taking courses and becoming certified mortgage securitization auditors themselves? If it's a scam, the California bar would not offer continuing ed courses to lawyers and attorneys for taking courses and becoming certified to do mortgage securitization audits. I even heard one knucklehead try to tell me that it's illegal for attorneys to even use a mortgage securitization audit. Again, if that was true, why do attorneys call me up requesting that I perform a mortgage securitization audit for their clients? Why does the California bar offer continuing ed for attorneys to take these courses and become certified if it's a scam? Somebody is putting out some misinformation to get you to hesitate from doing that, to keep you from moving forward, to put money in their pocket. Don't let someone cheat you like that. Now, you have to know how to do it. One, just like when you got your appraisal done on your home, you couldn't appraise your own home. You had to have a disinterested third party do the appraisal. The same way with a mortgage securitization, you have to have a disinterested third party do it, and then submit it with an affidavit attesting that all of the facts and things reported here are true, and that you don't have any interest in this property. Don't let somebody fool you. They may sound like they know what they're talking about, but they don't. I know of an individual right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who's trying to tell people that. and that same person calls me up and tries to get me to do audits for his clients for free. Won't mention any names, okay? But don't let somebody talk you out of getting a securitization audit. Might just well be the only thing that saves your home. It's about the only thing that's been proven to definitely work. Now, there have been some cases where the judge didn't allow the audit in. You have to know how to present it and get it into evidence. When it gets into evidence, you're going to win. You may not win at the local level, but you will win on appeal. I have won on appeal twice, and I went through the appeal process twice. I went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the state of Oklahoma and won. If you get in contact with me, I'll share it. You can read it for yourselves. This does work. I've been through it myself. I know it works. You know, in the transfer, one of the biggest transfers of wealth is getting you debt free. If we can get you, if you've got a $400,000 mortgage or a $200,000 mortgage, imagine if we can get you debt free on that. You own your home free and clear. Or you forced to, we're seeing that the banks will say on a $400,000 mortgage might offer to literally cut that mortgage in half. I've had clients call me up, say, hurry up and finish my securitization audit, Vince. A friend of mine just had one done, and his lawyer was able to get his mortgage reduced 50% with that securitization audit. Cut it in half. It's a California client where the mortgage is like $700,000-800,000 for a hut. One of my clients said, hey, I had a couple of friends, they had an audit done, and the attorney was able to negotiate with the bank and get that mortgage cut in half. I've heard that the banks have negotiated down to as low as 10%. In other words, if you have a $400,000 mortgage, they'll offer you a new mortgage at $40,000. With a very low interest rate to boot. So people are getting their property free and clear. They're getting a 50% reduction, getting their mortgage cut in half, or getting it renegotiated 10 cents on the dollar. This stuff works. It actually helps to keep you out of court. That's probably why this individual doesn't want his people to get one, because he's making money filling out their paperwork and dragging this thing out. When you have a securitization audit done up front, you can now attack opposing counsel. You can say, here is when you present your discovery and present file your lawsuit or your pleading or your answers and responses. You can say, here's my securitization audit by a certified auditor. Your client does not have legal standing. Here's the proof. If you persist with this lawsuit, I'm going to personally sue you and your firm because you don't have legal standing. You know that you don't have legal standing. I've proven it to you. Unless you can knock holes in this audit. And believe me, they can't, because it is what it is. It's right there on listed on the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's where we go and get the information. Okay, so you can't knock holes in it. I mean, it is what it is. If you persist in this lawsuit, you are perpetrating fraud upon the court. I will have your license, and I will personally sue you personally and your firm. You're perpetrating fraud against the court, and you know you are. That's an attorney can represent a serial killer, and they can argue that even if that serial killer says, yes, I killed him, I did kill all 100 people, and the attorney says, okay, I know, okay, you killed him, you told me, how do you want to plead? And the person can say not guilty. The attorney say, okay, we can go to court now. We will plead you not guilty, and I will fight vigorously for your defense, zealously, for your acquittal, and we'll do what we can to get you acquitted or get you a lesser term if you are, convicted. He can fight. He can say, my client didn't do it. My client, blah, blah. He can fight, like Clarence Darrow. Best legal efforts, but there's one thing he can't do. He cannot allow his client that told him that he actually killed those people. He cannot put that client on the stand and let him testify to that fact. He cannot do that. That's called suborning perjury. And he can be disbarred for it easily. He can defend him till the cows come home. He can get him acquitted, but he cannot let him take the stand and testify that he did not commit that crime when he knows that he did. So when you present that audit and you attack opposing counsel and say, unless you can poke holes in this audit, you're perpetrating fraud upon the court. Your claim is fraudulent upon its face. You won't believe how many attorneys tell the bank, you go get yourself somebody else. This guy knows what they're doing. I was at a real estate seminar around the middle of last year. Around April, around the end of April. And there was a guy telling people to get into the note buying business. Don't buy the property, buy the note on the property. You'll get a regular income, okay? And you'll never have to, unstop a toilet or fix a leaky roof. You just, collect money. And after, I was, going through my securitization training. And so I'm saying to myself, now how can the bank doesn't own that note? How in the world is the bank selling these notes, still selling these notes to people that they don't even own anymore? And then you've got investors who are buying, really they're just buying a piece of paper. It's worthless. If somebody, knew their rights and enforced it, they just bought a piece of paper that, they just bought toilet paper. So I went up to him. I didn't say anything publicly and embarrass him or anything, but I went up to him afterwards when he was at his booth and his table and no one was around. And I said, how can you buy these notes and the bank really doesn't own them? And he says, I had the same discussion with my attorney. And here's the conclusion that we came up with. Out of about 12 to 15, every 12 to 15 of these notes that we buy, we'll lose on anywhere from 2 to 3 of them. He says most people don't have the knowledge or the money to fight us. They just go quietly into the night. The next group of people, they may have the knowledge, but they don't have the money to fight us. So they go quietly into the night. Out of about every 12 to 15, there's one or two people who have the knowledge and they have the money. Those we lose. The profits that we're making, it's a numbers game. We don't care about the 2 or 3 that have the knowledge and the money. We don't care. That's the cost of doing business. So really what he just said is, we'll steal 80 to 90% of it. And then the people who know will fight us and win. You know, they don't even put up a fight. Why waste money, you know, on a legal defense? They just let it go. When you get a securitization audit done, you're demonstrating, you know, you're not a sheep, you're a ram. Okay? They know that you're a cut above. I was just today, January 8th, 2013, I was in court this morning with one of my clients. And the opposing counsel was there. And so we had like a little side discussion. We let them know, we're going to fight you. We're not going to let this happen. She said, okay, we'll go up to we were in, actually his property had already been sold at auction. He came to me very late in the process. So we went down and told him, there were some illegalities with things, and we told him we're going to fight this, fight that. And so she said, okay, I'll go into this judge. This judge will probably send us up to the original judge and give us a new hearing date. And she said, just wait till I finish my docket. I've got 40 other cases that I'm working on today. There was probably about 10 lawyers in there this morning. And they all were standing there with armfuls of files, okay, presented to the judge. And that judge, all she did all morning long was say, Bank of Oklahoma versus John Smith and Mary Smith. They weren't even there. So she just, okay, foreclosed on them. Gateway Mortgage versus blah, 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 blah. Bank of America versus blah, 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 blah. Most people weren't even there. Foreclosed. Rubber stamp, boom. Sign, boom. Sold order, foreclosed, bam. There were maybe 2 or 3 other people that were there besides me and my client. I don't think it was 3. I think it was just 2. I think it was a total of 3 of us there. That said, we object. No. He could have an eviction notice right now if he didn't show up and object and get a hearing. We'll have a case built for him by then, an audit or some other things that will buy us time to do the audit or whatever. My point is, she had 40 other cases. And she probably wasn't through for the day. That was just in the morning. I don't know if the afternoon session, how many more she'll have then, or how many she'll have, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But if she has 40 a day, that's 200 a week. Out of that 200, 2 or 3 people say, What do you think the bank is going to do, or the attorney is going to do, when you stand up to them with an audit and some other accompanying documentation, when they've got 200 people that they're just rolling over? Judge can't say their name fast enough. She's wearing herself out. Taking breaks after signing her name And that was just from one attorney. There were about 5 to 10 other attorneys there too. That was just from one attorney. Are they going to really put that much effort into fighting you when they got a couple of hundred that they're just rolling over like a steamroller? Most times, they won't even oppose you. You'll send in your responses and your pleadings, and you'll never hear anything back. And then you'll just be free to take your audit and go do your quiet title motion and get your property free and clear. They won't even bother to respond to your, to your paperwork. They'll just wait and see if you know what you're doing, if you're going to follow through. Are you going to drop the ball at some point? Are there any limitations to your knowledge or funds to fight? And if there's no limitation to your knowledge or your funds, they leave you alone. They're too busy making money on the other 200. Too busy making money on the other 200. If you need to get in contact with me, if you're in foreclosure, if you just want to get your property free and clear, if you want to do a modification, whatever, you can call me at area code 918-402-6206. That's 918-402-6206. Go to my website, thedominionteam.com. THE Dominion, D as in dominate, OMINION, team, like a basketball team, TEAM.com. Thedominionteam.com. 918-402-6206. Email me at team-dominion@sbcglobal.net. Team minus sign, the one that floats in the middle, as I tell people. Team Dominion, DOMINION at Samboy Cat, SBC, Global, just like a globe, GLOBAL.net. Team-Dominion at sbcglobal.net. And some of you say, hey, it's the guy, those who weren't with us last year, it's the guy wearing the Detroit Tiger jersey. No, this is the Dominion jersey. The D is for Dominion. Take Dominion. Let me see if, I don't know if you can see my back here. I have Dominion. Can you see that? Can they see it?
Can I see it?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm wearing. I'm wearing D for Take Dominion. Come to our monthly meeting. Okay, if you're in the area, come to our monthly meeting. Come and join the audience in person. I'll take questions. Bring your cases with. We take questions. Okay, come to the monthly meeting. The monthly meeting is the first Tuesday of every month. Now today is January 8th. It's the second Tuesday. We didn't meet last Tuesday because it was New Year's Day. So this was our inaugural meeting for the Transfer of Wealth Club. Okay? We're located at 728 West Main Street, Jinx, Oklahoma, 74037. Again, that's 728 West Main Street, Jinx, Oklahoma, 74037. Our mailing address is 8177 South Harvard Avenue, number 606. 8177 77 South Harvard Avenue, number 606, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 74137. 74137 for our mailing address. And again, we meet every first Tuesday of the month at 728 West Main Street, Jinx, Oklahoma. Every first Tuesday at 8 p.m. You can come and be a part of the audience. You know, you don't have to pay anything but attention. Membership into the Transfer of Wealth Club is free. Come and join us, be with us. If you can't be with us, watch us live online every first Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock. Send us your email address so we can send you the links every month. Also, in addition to our regular monthly meeting, we're every Tuesday at probably, we have made it 8:30 Central Time. We will have a conference call every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time.
I think you said it before, but you can change it.
Say what?
I think you had 8 o'clock before.
I may have said 8 o'clock before. We're going to need time to get to the phones before class, probably. We'll send, it's going to be anywhere between 8 and 8:30. We'll see how time runs. We'll send you the link. If we don't have your email address, we can't send you the link and the time. But every Tuesday, other than the first Tuesday of the month, every Tuesday, other than the first Tuesday of the month, we will have that live free conference call where you can call in, ask questions, get information, give your testimony, whatever. Everybody ought to be able to make that. So I just want to sign off now. I look forward to this upcoming year. And as I always say when I sign off, remember, take dominion. What do you have?
Are these recorded? Or
Yeah, these monthly meetings will be recorded. If you give us your email address, I'll consider you a member and we'll send you the link where you can, because we're going to be giving out pertinent information that you can use. So we'll send you the link of where you can go and watch previous meetings in case you have to miss a meeting. Yeah.
You can post them on YouTube.
They'll be posted on YouTube, so we'll be sending you those links. We'll probably have a couple of different links. Either one will probably be YouTube. You can also look at it on Ustream, some of them. And we also have a Vimeo page that we may upload some to as well. But they will be available. So all you have to do is just show up, some form or fashion. Okay. It was nice of you to join us. Take dominion. See you next month.